Good evening. Thank you, John. And I just want to congratulate the graduates. I'd like to start with that because this has been a long road for all of you, and it's not the end, it's the beginning. That's why they call it a commencement. And I'm honored to be here because I'm a double graduate of the Sisters of Mercy. I graduated from St. Nicholas Elementary School in Nicktown in 1969, and then I graduated from the Mount 10 years later, 1979. So I feel like I should be on that table with the artifacts. But anyway, I was asked to speak about motivation this evening. And so I'd like to ask all of you to take a moment and just go inside of yourselves and think about what motivated you to be here tonight. For you graduates, what motivated you to go to school and to work hard and to follow through to the graduation point? For family members, what motivated you to support the graduates? For the faculty and staff who are here, what motivates you to dedicate your professional energies to higher education at Mount Aloysius? We all have motivations. And when I was asked to speak about motivation, I thought, well, this is easy. I'll just go to Abraham Maslow's 1943 essay, A Theory of Human Motivation. And those who are in nursing and in psych know about that paper. He said that there are basically 5 stages of motivation. You start out with food and shelter, because without food and shelter, you really can't do anything. That's your basic motivation, that's survival. You move up from there to safety, physical safety, and sometimes emotional safety too. Once those needs are met, then you go into love and belongingness, having around you a community that makes you feel appreciated and loved. After that, you go to self-esteem. You start to feel pretty good about yourself. And after you've filled the rest of that pyramid, at the top is self-actualization, where you become the best version of yourself. And I thought, okay, well, that's my speech, I'm done. 3 minutes, I'm over, I'm out of here. But I realized that that's all pretty self-centered. It's all about self. It's all about food and shelter for me, safety for me, love and belongingness for me, self-esteem for me, and self-motivation, or self-actualization, it's all self. What gets us outside of ourselves? And I realized it's probably inspiration. And what inspires us? And I think that there are a number of things that inspire us. One is community, however you define that. Your community can be only your significant other, your nuclear family. It can be your school, your church, your town, your nation, humanity, all of nature, all of the universe. Your community can be as wide as you want it to be. Your community can also include God, however you define that. We can also be inspired to think outside of ourselves by concepts such as beauty and art and wisdom and power and money. They also inspire people. Science, music, all of those things can inspire us. But what connects ourselves with the things from outside of ourselves? We need that kind of connection in order to be inspired. And I thought, well, I think it comes in 2 forms. We can be intellectually connected to something through duty or respect or honor, and we can be emotionally connected to something, such as through love and hate and fear and hope and greed. All of those things can inspire us to motivate, to be motivated. But I think what pulls it all together is our values. And those of you who are in the Mount community know that values are critical to the mission of the Mount. And that the mercy values of mercy and justice and hospitality and service, and I would add integrity, all of those values are what anchor us in motivation and in inspiration. So I want you to hold those thoughts in mind, because I've been asked to talk about my personal story, because the Mount is full of personal stories, and I'm a local girl. My Italian grandparents moved to Evansburg in the early 1900s. My father was born and raised there, and I grew up outside of Nicktown. So I'm 3rd generation Cambria County. I went to St. Nicholas, as I said, thanks to the Sisters of Mercy. They encouraged my intellectual curiosity. I went to Bishop Carroll, graduated from there, and I did pretty well. And I got a scholarship to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I was going to become a doctor. But as much as I enjoyed intellectual stimulation, I enjoyed partying a whole lot more. So I went down to Hopkins, and it was my first time in the big city, and frankly, I got scared. And after half a semester, I was used to getting A's and getting C's. My boyfriend had moved down there with me, and I dropped out and took off hitchhiking around the country. And ended up marrying that guy. I got pregnant while I was hitchhiking, and we moved back to Cambria County, and the situation was so bad that when my daughter was a month old, my parents and his father did an intervention and took me and the baby away from him and moved us in with my parents. So here I am at 20, living on 20 acres in the middle of nowhere outside of Midtown with no job, no education, no money, no prospects, just a month-old baby who needed to be taken care of. And after watching me flail around the house for about a year, my mother said, you know, I think you should go to school. Why don't you go to the mountain and become a nurse like me? And I said, okay, why not? So I came to the mountain in nurses training. And it was pretty clear, pretty quickly, I was not cut out to be a nurse. I just wasn't that good with the patients. And so I switched to liberal arts. And I loved liberal arts. It opened the world for me. I heard classical music, I saw great art. I'll be forever grateful for that opening of my spirit through the liberal arts program here at the Mount. And I graduated with an associate's degree because at that time it was a junior college, and what do you do with an associate's degree in liberal arts? You go on. So I went to St. Francis and majored in international business and French, and I didn't like the job prospects then, so I had a scholarship to Pitt to go to law school. And so I went to Pitt, got my GED, and moved to Dallas to be close to my sister who was living there at the time. And I got a job with Arthur Young. I thought, you know, I don't want to use my law degree because lawyers have to lie. All lawyers lie, I was convinced of that. And accountants don't lie, so I used my, right? See how naive I was? And so I got a job as an international tax accountant at Arthur Young and failed miserably. I was horrible as an accountant. So I started looking for a legal job, and this French helicopter company was looking for its first in-house lawyer in the United States, and I interviewed for the job and I got it. So I was the first female executive for Aerospatiale, which was a French aerospace conglomerate at that time. And I did helicopters and general aviation for 4 years. But I got a new boss, and I thought he was dishonest. And so I tried to get him fired, and he tried to get me fired, and guess who won? He did. And so I learned then that you can act with integrity, but there's still consequences. So here I was, for the second time, Arthur Young in Aerospatiale, single mom without a job. So far I had failed twice. And it just so happened that Airbus was looking for its first in-house lawyer in the United States. Aerospatiale at that time was a partner of Airbus, so they knew about me. And they said, hey, why don't you come and interview to be our first in-house lawyer? And I did, and so I got that job. And I stayed there for 21 years as general counsel of Airbus in North America. So 25 years in aviation, 23 of those years I was the only female executive. And so I tried to set a good standard for women as executives. And I was lucky because Airbus wanted to do things right in the United States. My job was to keep us squeaky, squeaky clean, which aligned well with my values. And so I was really happy there for most of my time. Time goes on, my self-esteem is building, self-actualization is building, but it's all still pretty much about me. And then in 2007, April, my first grandson was born. And that's when the top of the pyramid blew off. And I was inspired by something greater than myself, and that was taking care of future generations. So that was April of 07, August of 07, I was back in law school at night, getting a master's of law, what they call an LLM, in environmental law at George Washington University, while I was also chairing the American Bar Association section of aviation and space lawyers. So I had no life for 3 years. And I gave Airbus 3 years notice that I would be resigning. So I didn't want to lie to them about why I was getting the extra degree. It wasn't for them. It was for me so I could go work for the planet. And because it was a master's, I had to do a paper. And I thought, all right, what do I care about that I want to focus on this paper? and I care about preventing and resolving conflicts. Where will conflicts arise in the future? It was pretty clear that it was going to be over water. So my paper was on aquifers, and I fell in love with water. So in January of 2011, I left Airbus armed with my LLM, which I got with highest honors, and my paper won an award. And I didn't know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. And I set up a little consulting company, got a little bit of business, but really nothing was happening. I was publishing, I was attached to a nonprofit environmental group in DC. And then I get this email from a university in Scotland. And they said, you know, how would you like to come and get a PhD in aquifers? I thought, what else am I doing with my life? So I sold my house, moved to Glasgow, Scotland for 3.5 years, and I'm almost done with my PhD. I passed the oral exam in April, and the final revisions are due January 1st, so I have like 2 more weeks. And so I'm still passionate about water. But in May of this year, I learned that my mother had congestive heart failure, and she needed to get on one floor. So I went on the internet, bought a house on the internet in Evansburg, and when I came back in July to move her into it, it was pretty clear she couldn't live alone anymore. So in September, I moved back here, and back to the town that I left in 1981. And I have to tell you, it's just been great. It's been great to be back. I got myself on the municipal authority in Evansburg to work on local water issues, while I'm still working on global water issues. So for the first time in my life, the last few years, I feel as though my motivation has been combined with inspiration. And I think when you combine motivation and inspiration, that's where your passion is. And that's the sweet spot that we all want to be in. We all want to be passionate about what we're doing. And sometimes passion can be a little bit of passion, sometimes a whole lot of passion. Like I loved my job at Airbus for all those years, but now I know what it's like to be passionate about what you do, and it's completely different energy, it's a completely different set of motivating factors. So as you graduates go forward, my advice to you would be to find your passion as much as you can and follow that. And sometimes you can't, like you're just trying to get that paycheck, you're just trying to provide for your family, and I get that. I was there for many years, but if you can, find what you're passionate about, because that's where your real power is. That's where you will be most successful. Work hard. I love working hard. I love working. And it's good to develop a reputation for working hard and working well, being a team player, and for being reliable. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And most of all, I would say, hold on to your values, because that's what you will be known for. It takes a long time to build up a good reputation, and you can lose it in a heartbeat, just with one act, one sentence. So the mercy values that have been instilled in you are so important. They will carry you through your life. And I realize now at this point, as I told you, the Sisters of Mercy got me at an impressionable age, and I am theirs for life. I've been a Sister of Mercy person since I was 7, and I feel like those values just seeped into every pore of my body, and I try to live them every day in every way. And so you're going to be given teacups here, and those teacups represent the mission that the Mount has instilled in you. And so even if you don't carry the teacup with you everywhere, carry it in your heart, and carry those values with you everywhere you go, because they're the most important thing that you have. Thank you very much for listening.